Picture this. You wake up on a bed of woven reeds, soaked in your own sweat and someone else's spit. The air in the chamber is hot, thick, and stinks of perfumed oils masking the sour musk of old flesh and fear. Torchlight flickers along the limestone walls, casting distorted shadows of twisted limbs and open mouths. Somewhere nearby, a eunuch sings to a god you stopped believing in years ago. Your body aches from last night. Your thighs burn. Your lips are cracked from holding in your screams. You are 16, or perhaps 18. Time no longer moves in years, but in touches and bruises. You belong to him now, one of the many gods who walks on earth, a pharaoh. And the truth is, you were never meant to be remembered. But we will remember you. What follows is not a story of beauty or power, but of suffering swallowed by marble silence. This is what it meant to be a male concubine in ancient Egypt. Before we journey into these forgotten tales of survival and suffering, if you enjoy uncovering the hidden truths of history, please consider liking this video and hitting that subscribe button for more content like this. And please comment below to let me know where you're listening from. I find it incredible that we're exploring these ancient stories together from different parts of the world, connected across time and space by our shared curiosity about the past. To understand this nightmare, we must first understand where he came from. His name has been lost, of course. His body never received a tomb. But he was born in the city of Akhmim, not far from the bend of the Nile, during the reign of Amenhotep III. His mother, a servant in the estate of a provincial noble, raised him in the laundry quarters with 4 other children. His father, if he had one, was never spoken of. From the beginning, his beauty set him apart. Wide eyes like polished obsidian, skin the colour of wet cedarwood, a voice that made women stop speaking. By the time he was 10, visiting scribes and bureaucrats began to take notice. One of them, a man with soft hands and no family name, took him to Thebes under the lie of temple education. He would never see Akhmim again. He is cleaned with oils. His hair is shaved, except for a curled lock behind the left ear, signalling his status as a servant of the court. When he asks about the temples, he is told not to speak unless spoken to. When he asks about his family, he is whipped for impudence. He learns quickly. Boys who speak disappear. Boys who obey survive. At 13, he is brought into the House of Pleasure, a private wing of the royal palace, where music never stops and the walls echo with giggles that turn into muffled sobs. He does not understand what is being done to him the first time. He only knows it hurts. Later, he bleeds for 2 days and is forced to bathe with salt to cleanse the god's anger. That night, another boy whispers in his ear, "You're Pharaoh's favourite now. His name is gone." He is called Nech, which means little one. It is not a term of affection. It is a designation, a position, a fate. Now focus on how the system that devoured him truly worked and the machinery of exploitation that ground him to dust. Inside the palace, there are no clocks, no seasons, only rituals. The court eunuchs manage everything. They wash the boys, train their posture, feed them crushed dates and honeyed wine. The favoured are taught dance, song, flattery. The least favoured are simply made silent. Punishment is routine. The lash is ceremonial, not corrective. It is to remind them what their skin is worth. The House of Pleasure is not discussed in public, but its existence is well known. Officially, it is a music hall, a chamber of performance and entertainment. Unofficially, it is a hunting ground. The pharaoh visits unannounced. The boys must always be ready. There are no warnings. When the golden mask appears, everybody goes rigid. Some pray, some disassociate. He does both. What he learns, over time, is that love is currency. The boys compete to be favored, not out of ambition, but for safety. A favorite eats better, receives fewer punishments, is less likely to be passed to visiting dignitaries like a jug of spiced wine. Once, at 15, he is given to a Cushite general as a gift for a successful campaign. The man breaks his ribs. When he is returned, the court physician forces him to walk, so his body does not stiffen and rot. He begins to forget his mother's voice. He begins to hear laughter when he tries to sleep. He begins to feel nothing at all when he is touched. This is what the system is designed to do: erase. It is not enough to break the body. The soul must be dissolved. As Nek matures, the palace becomes a prison of contradictions. During the day, priests chant hymns about Ma'at, the goddess of balance and truth. At night, he is stripped and decorated like a doll to please a living god who bleeds and sweats like any man. The scribes document the glory of Pharaoh's court in gold-leaf scrolls. They do not mention the boys. They are not supposed to. But even as Nek tries to numb himself, a flicker of defiance remains. He teaches a younger boy, Kenaman, how to feign fever to avoid a summons. Once, he hides him beneath the perfumed bedding to protect him from a visiting merchant. The boy kisses his shoulder in thanks. That kiss will be the last human warmth Nek remembers before everything falls apart. What happened next would strip even that last thread of defiance from him. Nek's body, though still youthful, begins to show signs of wear. The faint line of a healed rib, the slight drag of his left leg from an untreated sprain, the subtle tremble in his hands when the flutes begin to play. In a world where beauty equals worth, these are fatal cracks. By the time he reaches 17, a death sentence lingers behind every sideways glance. He is no longer the prized thing, he is aging out. The system was never built for boys to grow old. Most disappear before they do. Some are transferred to lesser nobles, fading into obscurity and continued abuse. Others are found drowned in the Nile, their deaths attributed to divine will. Nek sees this happen. One morning, Kenaman's cot is empty. A eunuch mutters something about punishment and moves on. Nek knows what that means. He doesn't ask. The palace walls echo louder now, the laughter sharper, more artificial, the rituals more frantic. Amenhotep is aging too, desperate to preserve the illusion of his divinity. The house of pleasure is now crowded with foreign emissaries, and boys are given as tokens of diplomacy. Nek is handed to a Syrian priest for 5 nights in exchange for an alabaster lion. He is returned vomiting blood. The doublethink becomes unbearable. The priests chant about purity while supervising the oiling of bodies. The scrolls speak of divine order, while those same scribes take boys behind closed drapes. One night, during a festival of Hathor, goddess of beauty and motherhood, Nek is painted gold and paraded on a silver platform. He does not blink, he does not move. Inside, he screams. Survival becomes a ritual too. Nek learns to control his breathing, to go still like the sacred ibis. When he is touched, he floats away in his mind to a memory of reeds and river fog, of his mother's hands in the wash basin. He tells himself stories of gods who punish the wicked. But there is no justice here, only opulence and rot. Years pass. The palace changes rulers. Akhenaten, the heretic king, brings with him a feverish obsession with the sun disk. Aten, the old temples close. The statues are defaced. But the system survives. The names change. The bodies remain. By now, Nek is a ghost. He moves through the palace as a servant now, no longer desirable, but still marked. His silence is his protection, but inside something festers. A hunger to speak, to remember, to make it known. He begins scratching stories into the soft clay walls behind the perfumery, names, dates, what was done, and by whom. He knows they will destroy them. He carves anyway. One evening, he is caught helping a new boy hide during a noble's visit. The boy is found. Neck is taken to the hall of Ma'at, not for a formal trial, but for punishment. The pharaoh's steward watches. He is lashed until his back is a single weeping wound. Then he is stripped of his court robes and exiled to the animal pens to clean dung until he collapses from infection. But before that collapse, before his body finally gives out, he speaks, just once. He tells the steward, "You think the gods are watching you with pride. They are not. They weep." As Neck's body weakened, the world around him seemed to grow more indifferent, not less. He spends his final months among the animals, a former ornament now reeking of dung and rot. The flies are constant. His skin splits in the sun. The same eunuchs who once bathed him in myrrh now toss him scraps like he is already dead. But even here, he is not truly forgotten. The younger boys whisper about him. Some pass by the pens and leave a date or a strip of linen, eyes cast downward. In their gestures, he glimpses something rare in this place: reverence. Neck dies in the heat of an unrecorded summer, likely no older than 20. His death is not mourned by the court, nor inscribed in the scrolls. His body is buried not with rites, but with waste, thrown into a pauper's pit outside the city walls, near the refuse heaps. No scarab amulet, no book of the dead, just silence and sun-cracked soil. His name, once uttered in whispers of envy, dissolves completely. And yet, the system that consumed him continues. The court of Akhenaten collapses under the weight of its own ideological extremism, and the capital is moved again. Temples are restored. Pharaohs change their names, build new monuments, rewrite old truths. But the hidden machinery remains untouched. The concubine system persists in private chambers, obscured by layers of incense, ritual, and selective memory. Boys like Neck still enter through promises of song and worship, and leave in silence or never leave at all. These boys are absent from most hieroglyphic records. Egypt's great inscriptions trumpet the names of generals and architects, not the shattered children in the palace corridors. Yet the papyri of lesser scribes, those rarely displayed in museums, offer glimpses. One speaks of the song boy with teeth like pearls who disappeared after the solstice. Another scroll, found in a cracked alabaster jar near the ruins of Amarna, lists offerings to the temple: oil, honey, and 5 youths for the pleasure of the Aten priests. We must understand that this cruelty was not incidental. It was systemic, ritualized, refined. Egypt's glory was built not only on stone but on flesh. Behind every pillar of Karnak stood the bones of the silenced. Neck was one of thousands. Their lives were the hidden tax of imperial divinity. Even now, the echoes reach us. Modern systems still consume the vulnerable beneath masks of culture, tradition, and hierarchy. Children still vanish into institutions where no one watches. Abuse cloaked in sacred language remains abuse. Survivors still scratch truths into walls, hoping someone will one day see. We owe it to Neck to see. Centuries later, long after the last priests of Aten were silenced, and the Valley of the Kings had been plundered by time and thieves alike, the winds over Akhmim still carried dust through the bones of forgotten fields. In the 21st dynasty, a scribe named Chauti copied older scrolls onto newer papyri. Among hymns and harvest records, he preserved a curious anecdote: a nameless boy, once beloved by the court, who dared to defy his role and vanished. The passage was brief, the tone is missive. But even dismissal is a form of recognition. The broader implications of Nek's story ripple outward like disturbed Nile water. His suffering was not unique. It was part of a social order that linked power with divinity, beauty with utility, silence with virtue. In this construct, pharaohs were not only rulers, they were gods, and gods could not commit crimes. The palace, draped in lotus and alabaster, stood atop an unacknowledged graveyard of youth. Sexual exploitation in ancient Egypt was rarely documented in direct terms, yet it can be read between the glyphs, in the omissions and euphemisms. Phrases like favoured of the court, pleasure attendants, servants of the inner chamber, all point to a system of coerced intimacy masked as divine service. Boys were trained not just to serve, but to vanish historically, emotionally, spiritually. This was the brilliance of the machine. It fed on the forgotten. What Egypt left behind was a paradox. The same civilization that mapped the stars and embalmed the dead with surgical precision also institutionalized a form of abuse so profound that it had to be erased from the record. But even erasure leaves fingerprints. Psychologically, Nek's experience mirrors modern understandings of complex trauma, dissociation, attachment, disturbance, learned helplessness. He was not simply a victim of violence. He was remade by it. Over time, his silence became strategic, his obedience a performance. His small acts of resistance teaching others, hiding them, carving truth into stone, became the only way to assert that he once lived. These survival strategies are echoed in testimonies of abuse survivors across centuries. The need to be believed, the instinct to protect others, the compulsion to document, even in secret. We see these traits in war diaries, in asylum notes, in whispered memoirs from other oppressed peoples. Nek was not a footnote. He was a prototype. The climax of his ordeal, the final lashing, the public degradation, the exile to the animal pens was no anomaly. It was the culmination of a system designed to discard what no longer served its image. There was no trial, no appeal, only exposure to the elements and the stench of decay. His humiliation was not personal. It was political. By breaking him in public, the court reaffirmed its control. And yet, even in his worst moment, Nek managed a final transgression. He spoke, just once. Not to plead, not to beg, but to indict. You think the gods are watching you with pride. They are not. They weep. That sentence breathed through blood and broken teeth was his offering. A curse and a confession. A prophecy that power built on silence will one day collapse under the weight of truth. Across the red Nile dusk, when the last of Nek's breath left his body, no ritual hymn followed. No incense was lit. No priest uttered the 72 names of the underworld. His death, like his life, was absorbed into silence, and yet that silence did not remain whole. Cracks formed. A boy who had once shared food with Nek in the pen fled the palace a year later, vanishing into the marshes. Another, now grown, refused to serve when summoned, taking lashes without scream or apology. These were not revolutions. They were echoesmal fractures in the wall that had confined them all. His immediate death brought no reckoning. The house of pleasure remained active, passed down from one court chamberlain to the next like fine linen. His body was never recovered. but the memory of him, however distorted, flickered at the margins of recorded time. A temple graffiti, found centuries later in a collapsed chamber near Amarna, reads only, "Neck walked with broken feet, still he carried us." No monuments were ever raised to male concubines. They did not receive statues, nor stelae, nor posthumous honorifics, but their legacy survives in the unanswered questions of ancient record keepers. Why did so many court boys disappear? Why were their names written in ink that faded so much faster than stone? Why did scribes burn lists when a pharaoh died? What were they hiding? In modern times, archaeology has done much to unearth the glory of ancient Egypt, but it has also, inadvertently, uncovered its crimes. Analysis of juvenile skeletal remains near palace ruins reveals fractures, pelvic injuries, and malnutrition inconsistent with elite upbringing. Private letters from court officials speak of training the boys well so their loyalty does not falter. These are the fragments of truth, sharpened by time, that puncture the myth. We must see Neck not only as a victim of a distant past, but as a mirror to the present. Across the world, systems still devour the vulnerable, be it through child trafficking, institutional cover-ups, or abuses of spiritual authority. The forms change, the machinery persists. And what of us, the observers, the curious travellers across time? We must choose what we carry forward. Let us carry Neck not as a symbol of suffering alone, but of endurance, of memory, of resistance carved into clay behind a perfumery wall. Because to forget him is to become the system that killed him, and we are no longer allowed that luxury.